Hi class, this is Katrina. Welcome to discussion question number 1, week 4, and the video with Dr. Ellis and Gloria. So first of all, Mary, thank you so much. I wasn't able to see it in the module, and I just want to say thank you for sharing that link with me. I appreciate it. Um, okay, so I really liked watching the session between Dr. Ellison and Gloria. So I know that you've heard the scripture probably 1,000 times, but when I read scripture that I've heard so many times, I try to reread it each time like it's the first. And that will usually, I do it slowly and it gives me some perspective, and somehow I pick out something in the verse that I may have not focused on before or paid attention to as much as I do then each time I read it. Anyway, um, so therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. So first of all, it's giving us direction. We're already getting the direction. I know that Dr. Ellis was helping Gloria with giving her some direction on how to view herself. And it says, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. Um, so it was just really interesting to hear his perspective on how she sees others, individuals that she believes is viewing her, and then how she recognizes herself in there, and then the homework that he talks about to put into practice. So, uh, scripture 2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So I'm going to break that down into what I heard uh, with my untrained ear, but with my desire to apply everything to Scripture. So when Dr. Ellis was talking about external events, I heard how he was putting that in an application of the way the world and the exposure we have as to what the world causes one to believe is good. So first of all, that's what I captured as the external. So do not conform to the patterns of this world, because the world has its own idea of what is good, what people should be, um, how they should live, uh, and it's grueling. It's just grueling because there's such a high level of expectation um, when that happens. Like, so if we do not have, um, basically, we're living under conditions. We're not smart enough. We're not rich enough. We're not attractive enough. And it's hard to just be yourself when you feel you're under such scrutiny. So that's what I that's what I equated to the external event. Internal event is the self transformed by renewing your mind with new beliefs, other than what you have been surrounded by for so long. So, what I understood Dr. Ellis talking about is um, how you have thought of something in the past does not um, hold it true for your future. So you have the ability to reevaluate those thoughts. So kind of capturing those thoughts and then transforming them and recognizing that self-sabotaging that you do when you discount yourself, because you're not living up to the expectations of what the world or other people around you might put on you. And it's heavy. It can be really heavy when you have to live with such an expectation instead of just being yourself. And uh, so basically, in that perspective, Gloria needed to recognize where that was coming from. And that was coming from an internal view of herself. It wasn't even holding true as to what the men around her may have thought. And they may have thought that, but she'd already done some self sabotaging. So instead of transforming her thoughts into, hey, I'm positive on all the great qualities. I'm positive. I'm fun. I'm whatever qualities that she has. She's already dismissed herself in. Um, she's she's put those thoughts in her mind, and so instead of transforming and renewing those thoughts into what God feels she is and what God says she is putting that honing in that negative transmission of what she believes this individual is thinking of her. Okay, so put it into practice is the final step that I heard Dr. Ellis talk about, where it's the personally testing the impact this will have on one's life when the focus is on God and not the desires of the world and what the world calls us to understand or equate as good. But what God equates as good. So, in order to do that, you have to continually practice. We have to continually practice renewing our thoughts day after day, continually recognize those thoughts from the perspective of the world and what the world is living, the way the world is expecting us to conform to. And it's difficult to be yourself because you're constantly trying to live up to the world's expectation. So, but if you're living for God, then there are no conditions to be smart enough, rich enough, attractive enough, but simply just to be ourselves and live by Scripture. So, only when we, uh, my quoting Dr. Ellis here, only when we um, work and practice to reevaluate this ourself will we get better. So his in the scripture where it says his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So Dr. Ellis made a statement at the very end, and I think it's a pretty crucial point to what this passage is telling us. So unless we work with the material, then nothing will happen. Work and practice, then can do good with the rest of our lives. So this transforming by renewing your mind is not something that we can do in a day. We just read a scripture like, voila, we're good to go. We can move forward and we have all these new thoughts because we're under the scrutiny of the world and the challenges that surround us and we're in a supernatural battle. So Satan is constantly putting thoughts in our mind, and if they're not positive thoughts, then they're not of God, because God is only good. So we just continually have to keep reminding ourselves when we have those negative thoughts, those negative feedbacks that, hey, this is not of God, and I matter and I'm important, and if the world doesn't think so, excuse me, if no one in the world will accept me as valuable, um, then that's okay because I am valuable in the eyes of God. And we just have to keep reminding ourselves that we're in a temporary life at this moment, in this world that we live in, and this world will come to ashes and it will be no more. So we just have to continually renew our mind. Um, Anyway, so that is my perspective and understanding of Dr. Ellis, the video for Dr. Ellis with Gloria. So I look forward to your feedback and watching your posts. Thank you. Have a great night.